What's up, my friends? John Baruti. Baruti Success. This week we're talking about how I sold my bakery. Stay tuned. All right, so you want to know how I sold my bakery. First of all, if you didn't watch the last video on how I bought my bakery, which I really didn't buy, I kind of created, but regardless, you need to see the video, and I'll put it up here, somewhere up here. It's gonna be up here. Go and watch it. For those of you that are a little bit lazy and want the 2-minute synopsis, no problem. Here we go. The year is 1987. Again, way back. A friend of my dad's asked if I wanted to deliver bread. I heard how much he was paying, and I said, sure. What the heck, right? So my bread career started. Fast forward to I graduated college, and my father and I started a business. And then, unfortunately for me and my family, my father tragically passed away at the age of 49. I was pretty much screwed, along with my family. So my friend came to me and said, hey, I'm going to be selling partial of my route. Would you like to buy it? And I said, yeah, I kind of need to, because I got nothing going on right now. So I bought it. So I went from a part-time driver to a full-time owner of a bread route, and I grew that into a 7-figure bread route within like a year to 2 years, basically. So I went from delivering bread to baking bread in the year 2000, when I decided that I was going to build a bakery. No idea how, but I figured it out. And there I was. I went from part-time driver, full-time route owner, to full-time bakery. Yeah, all in a very short period of time, right? I grew that bakery up until 2020 to a multi-million-dollar bakery, until I sold it in, I believe it was, when was it? February of 2020, right? So that was the story of how I got into the bread business. Now, here's a story on how I sold it. So just like any other entrepreneur over 30 plus years, I had my ups and downs. Many a month, I said, I gotta sell this thing. I can't do it anymore. It was stressful, right? 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I know I say that often and nobody believes me, but listen, a wholesale bakery, if you don't deliver people's bread, because that's 90% of what we did, bread. If you don't deliver their bread, they can't make sandwiches, can't open a restaurant, can't make morning breakfast sandwiches, can't make subs, so on and so forth. So you work 24/7. The bakers come in the middle of the morning to bake the bread for that night. Then the drivers come in and drive the bread and deliver it overnight. So it's 24/7. Yeah, that kind of ground me to a nub. Most of those epiphanies came during the summer when it was super, super blistering hot out. So you basically had the excruciating heat of the outside. The ovens and the equipment I had, because I was a wholesale baker, I wasn't a mom and pop like little small, doing little, orders. We did thousands and thousands of loads of bread. So we had equipment that looked like buses. The oven was, the two ovens, the two main ovens were literally the size of a school bus. And then we had smaller ovens that were size of cars, and we had mixers the size of a midget car. So, this stuff was pretty big, and it threw off a lot of heat. I always wanted to pay my crew more than the industry. The unfortunate part of it is, in the wholesale bread business, the margins are so ridiculously thin. Listen, just like so many businesses, it's hard to pay good people, your people, more than the going rate. Listen, today, if I was still in business, I don't know how I'd be in business, because with the demands of pay scales today, it's crazy. And in wholesale bread, and listen, that's why you go to the store and a loaf of bread is $5. A baguette is $5. It used to be $2. So those are the reasons. And listen, I'm just glad I'm out of it. But for as long as I can remember, finding good people that were willing to work long, hard, hot hours for average pay was like finding a unicorn. So when I did find those people, which I did, I had a great group of ragtag drivers, bakers, office, just you name it. I had great employees, but keeping them, was difficult. In an average day, it wasn't a problem. But when you are dealing with the business that I was, which was mainly shore business, which means that during the summer, you get inundated with work, and you get inundated with orders, and during the winter, not so much. I would say 9 months out of the year, everything was average, it was okay, everything was going well. And then those 3 to 4 months during the summer, it was chaos. I even tried changing the pay scale during the summer to the winter. It was difficult to keep people because at the end of the summer, people were exhausted, and they were exhausted. And you burnt them out because you couldn't find enough new people for the business you had, so you relied on the people you had to do double the work, and it was a disaster. Honestly, 30 years, disaster. So you go through that summer after summer after summer after summer with trucks breaking down, equipment breaking down, people not showing up, people quitting, hiring great people and not being able to keep them because you can't pay them what they deserve. After years of that, let's fast forward to 2019. Okay? Because 2019 is when I found a squishy thing on my backside by my butt. I was working out a lot, going to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, and when I was doing sit-ups, I kept feeling this backache and, squishy thing. So I went to the doctor, and they told me, no problem, you have an ingrown hair. That's what you got. And take this antibiotic and you'll be skippity-dippity. A couple of weeks later, I wasn't skippity-dippity. So I went to talk to other doctors, and they told me, let's go do a CAT scan, because this doesn't look too good. Did the CAT scan, and that's when the disaster happened, that I got my cancer. And not only did I get cancer, I got this ridiculously rare cancer that they said, hey, you should probably get your things in order. It's not looking good. Yeah, that wasn't fun. So, for those of you that want to know, and I can't remember, so I'm going to read it off my screen. The rare cancer was neoplasm rectum cancer with a cross mutation. Cross mutation. That was the killer. The cross mutation. And the reason, because that cross mutation was not going to do well with radiation and chemo. They gave it to me. They zapped the shit out of me. But it really didn't do anything, which we kind of knew it wasn't going to. So I had to go in for this massive, life-changing operation. Okay? Knowing all this, also knowing that my dad had passed away at age 49, I am now 49 and going to be 50. And I said, I do not want to leave my family in the lurch. I don't want them to have this huge burden of a bakery. So I made the decision to sell. And I have no idea why I didn't make this decision years earlier. Because listen, I loved my customers. I loved my employees. I hate it. I'm sorry. I hated the business. I loved making bread, but it just was a grind. So, I should have sold the business years earlier and went and pursued something like this or something that I absolutely love, but I didn't. This was non-negotiable. I had said, listen, if I'm not going to be on this earth, I have to sell everything I have and we got to figure it out. So I was off and running. And off and running meant I called every distributor. I called every vendor I had. I called every bakery that we dealt with. I called everybody that would listen. I called brokers. I called realtors. I called everybody and said, hey, I am thinking of selling. Now, I'm going to give you a little synopsis of a couple years earlier. Right? Now, my bakery was successful. And it's not easy to have a successful bakery. Wholesale bakery, but mine was successful. And people knew this, people in the industry knew this, so they said, years earlier, they said, hey John, if you ever think of selling, give us a call, we'd be interested. So, what did I do? Knock, knock. Hey, Bob, Joe, John, Terry, you guys said you were interested. What do you think? Oh, John, it's a bad time. Bad time. So whenever you need somebody, and remember this, whenever you need to sell, and I should have known, well, I did know this from my father trying to sell his restaurant years earlier. When you need someone, they will never be there. So when the iron is hot, my iron was not hot. When the iron is hot and somebody is saying to you, well, why don't you think of selling? I'm not going to tell you got to sell, right? Some people, they own their businesses for their life and they're extremely happy. But if you have the opportunity and somebody is interested in your business, take the opportunity and listen to what they have to say, okay? So I didn't have that opportunity. It had gone away. So now I'm saying to myself, okie dokie, Johnny, what are we gonna do? Because we gotta get rid of this. And it came to the point that I'm like, well, maybe I can just keep operating it and I'll get through the operation. And I'm like, no. You've made the decision, you're gonna sell, and stick to that decision. And no matter what, even if you have to close the doors, you are getting out of this business. Okay, so what do? Well, first, I figure, well, are these guys now all of a sudden knowing? Because again, you know, this is not a big industry. So everybody kind of knows everybody in the industry, and everybody knows everybody else's business. And by this time, it was pretty much out that I was sick and I might not come back from this. I'm sure that was because of my big mouth, but regardless. And the reason it was because of my big mouth is, and this is a big reason why some people or old school people don't sell, because they're like, oh, everybody's gonna find out that I wanna sell and it's gonna ruin my business. Listen, sometimes I can't say that's not true, but again, I was up against the wall and I don't really think that's 100% true. So what I was thinking was, well, maybe these guys are gonna wait till I die and then take over my business or buy it for pennies on the dollar. Yeah, if you met me, that's not gonna happen. So I put a plan together. I said, okay, I flipped the script. I said to myself, if somebody came to me and gave me an opportunity to buy another bakery and basically double my business, and let's say I didn't have the money or I didn't want to put out the money, you know, what would be attractive? So I started going over, what could I do? What would I accept? And I came up with what's called a earn-out deal, okay? So I said, put it on paper. Okay, so what's the minimum that I can take to pay off all my vendors and pay off any debt I have? And I came up with $150,000. And then I put my buyer's hat on. I'm like, all right, if somebody came to me and said, give me $150,000 for a business that's doing over $3 million, what would I say? Okay. So that's my first thing. The minimum I could take up front is $150,000. I wrote that down. Then I had said, okay, how can I make this attractive without screwing myself? And I said, okay, well, if the business does well, I have no problem paying somebody. So I said, all right, so if I'm doing the business I'm doing now, and I got paid 5% of weekly sales, all right, that would work out well for me if the deal was a 2-year deal. And that would work out well for the buyer, because if sales went down, because listen, this is a big worry that people have of buying businesses. The owner leaves or gets sick and customers run out and leave. And they might not leave to my bakery that I'm buying. So I'm the buyer bakery and I'm buying this bakery. They might run to another bakery, and that's a concern. So I said, well, that's not as much of a concern, because I'll make sure before I go on my operation and after I come out that I'll cultivate the customers, call them, make sure they stick around. But to make it even more attractive, even if they didn't, you pay me 5% on sales. So if we did $100,000 in sales this week, you pay me on $100,000. If we did $30,000 in sales this week, because we lost a whole shitload of customers, you pay me only on $30,000. So again, I switch my hat, put my buyer's hat on. I'm like, well, that sounds fair, because for whatever reason, if we lose business, I don't have to pay this guy as much. And as the person selling, I said, and I worked it in the deal, but if I come back and I'm fine after my operation, I want the ability to come and basically work for you and sell bread. And if I increase the business, it helps you, it helps me, because I'm making now 5% on more sales per week. It's a win-win for everybody, right? That was part 2 of the deal, of the earn-out. Then there was a part 3. Part 3 was, okay, so 5% was probably the most I could get from someone to do almost like a commission base that wouldn't hurt them. They could still make money every week. It was enough for me to live on for 2 years. And then, but I'm saying, okay, if the bakery is still doing well and we're still doing, $3+ million a year, that's really not a lot to sell the bakery for. So I said, okay, here's my third and final phase. I would like a bonus at the end of the sale. So let's say the bakery after 2 years is doing 3+ million, right? I would like a bonus of X. If the bakery is doing $2,999,999, a penny under 3 million, I'll get Y value, the bonus payout. And if the bakery is doing less than $1 million, I will take 0. There, you owe me no bonus, right? So I knew as long as they ran the bakery like I ran it, that's like a no-brainer for me, right? So if everything went well, I knew I could make 7 figures on my exit. If, they were the worst operators in the world, I knew I could make, mid to high 6 figures. So with this package, I went back to all the people that I had spoke to, and I finally got a couple people who, okay, well, we'll listen now. And then finally, a bakery did put up the down payment, which was $75,000, and they stepped up. They said, yeah, this sounds perfect for us. This is, they were in the midst of reorganizing. It made sense for them and made sense for us, right? So now time is of the essence because the clock is ticking that I have to go in for this operation, and we need to get to the closing to get all this done. And I gotta be honest with you, it went on forever. Partly because of my attorneys. Listen, they were like, are you out of your mind? You're doing an earn-out sale? You are putting yourself up for so much problems because they can sabotage your business and you'll get nothing. I'm like, listen, guys, the way I saw it, I could possibly be closing the doors and getting nothing. So I said, this bakery is valuable. I know it, and most people out there know it. They don't want to pay for it because they're all waiting for me to croak and take over my business. And even if they did that, this bakery would get a little bit, this bakery would get a little bit, it wouldn't go all to one bakery. I'm like, and that was my sales pitch to the bakeries that were interested. I'm like, listen, you can wait for me, you can wait me out, and I might get tired, I might be too sick to operate the business anymore, and I could just close up or sell it for pennies on the dollar. Right? But you're not guaranteed to get all the business. You're not. Maybe you'll get 20%, maybe you'll get 30%, maybe you'll get 50% of the business if it goes down that way. You will get 100% of the business if we do this. And not only that, you'll get 100%, and I'm almost making this a no-brainer for you. To basically put out $150,000 and then do an earn-out if the business does well. I mean, come on, it was a no-brainer. So my guys dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and we came to the closing table, and we closed, thank God. Almost immediately, yeah, it was pretty much, I think, the next day that we closed, that the bakery that bought us started giving me problems. Started canceling customers right away. Because listen, I built my bakery on small mom and pop bodegas, small restaurants, small delis. Average order is $250 to $300 a week. That's in the industry is okay, but it's on the smaller side. These larger bakeries, they want $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a week customers, which I had, but I didn't have, my whole portfolio wasn't that. We did a lot of little customers. So this bakery figured, all right, well, we'll just slash all those people. We don't want them, but no. Remember, this is an earn-out. So I sat down with the bakery. I said, listen, this is what you signed. Looky, your initials, your signature. You can't just go and do that. You can't run this just willy-nilly the way you want. You can't just tell customers to go F themselves because they're not buying the right bread or they're buying too little or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do what we want. So it was about a year of this bakery just doing whatever they want. Devastating my business, right? Now, yes, we went through COVID during this, but I'm telling you, devastating my business. Just any customer that if they gave them a little bit of a problem, or they were too far out of the way, or they didn't do enough business, or they didn't buy the bread they wanted in the big, well, you're done. So when I finally had my operation, which wasn't fun, and I finally was in rehab and finally came home, I had said to my attorneys, okay guys, because I had a whole nother year in this deal. I said, okay guys, let's give them one more chance. We'll We'll send out the paperwork and say, listen, we're going to sue you. And they basically blew it off. And it really, to me, it was, okay, we'll go and sue them. And even my attorneys were like, what? I'm like, yeah, we're going to go sue them. This is what they signed. This is what I signed on for. All they had to do was leave things alone for 2 years. That's it. It was making money. Don't do anything to it, right? So I said, yeah, we're going to sue them. And as soon as their attorney found that out, he contacted the owner of the company, and they knew what they signed. Their attorney was like, yeah, we're not going to get out of this. He's going to get his money. So the way it ended up, right, is I didn't get everything, which, listen, in deals, that's the way it goes. I was heading towards a costly court battle during COVID. Would I have won? Yeah, I would have won. It would have been easy. I had so much documentation. I had customers that said, yeah, we'll sign an affidavit. We'll come to court. This guy just up and told us to go F off. Like, it's not a problem. I had all the backup. I had all the information. I had all the case was won before we even stepped into the court. But my attorneys, these guys are, they are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour. So it was going to cost a lot of money. And I knew the only ones that would win were my attorneys and his attorney. So me and this other bakery came to a meeting of the minds, and he wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. 9 times out of 10, when you get a deal like that, both sides are like, okay. And that's what we did. I am still to this day happy on the deal. I'm not ecstatic. I did very well, as what I feel. That business is a hard business to sell. Profits are not, extravagant, and you have to find the right owner. So at the end of the day, I think I did, because you got to remember, I only sold this person the bakery. I still had the property that was worth a bazillion, right? I still own the ice cream store that we were going to sell after I got better. We still own the ice cream store's property, again, through the roof. I still owned other properties that we were going to sell. So this bakery sale I didn't have to make multi-millions of dollars to be okay. So at the end of the day, that's how I did it. That's how we went from, running a bakery one day to knowing I had to sell it to, structuring it so it would be advantageous for both parties, to it not working out, the other party doing exactly what my attorney said they would do, to coming to some sort of meeting of the minds, to settling, to walking away and getting my money, getting my final check, wiping my hands, and and doing okay. Not doing tremendous, but not doing too bad. So that was the journey. I get asked a lot if I miss it. I do not miss it at all. I miss my customers. I miss my employees. It's going to sound weird. I miss the grind of having to go to work every day. And that's why I do this. It supplements. But in essence, I don't miss the whole thing. That was a tough business. And I'm ecstatic that I was able to get out of it what I did. So I hope that helped. And remember, I am going to be doing, the next one up is how me and my wife sold our ice cream store. It's a good story. But then my plan is I'd love to interview other business owners that have exited. So you guys can get an essence of, all right, first of all, even if I didn't own a business, I think it's cool to find out how people, how much, how they do it, how long were they in business. I just love finding that kind of stuff out. So I hope you do too, right? And not only that, it gives you, if you do own a business and you are thinking of getting out of the business, selling it, this will give you insight on the different ways, because it's everything isn't, clean and easy. The ice cream store was we didn't do an earn out. We did a full sale, property and business all together, fairly straightforward, and that went well. That was a much easier business to sell, believe it or not. So that's what I want the channel to focus on, and I hope you're excited to see the next video. So, I'll see you on the next one.
I sold my bakery, yeah. I sold my bakery, yeah. Okay, we'll see you on the next one.